The coming food shortages in the United States and globally, what you need to know and how you can best prepare. There's a lot to talk about around this topic, so let's jump right into it. Alright, so at this point, all of us are very aware of what is going on between Russia and Ukraine. However, the story is not all about these two countries. In fact, there's a lot going on globally right now that is unfortunately impacting the global food supply. And yes, us right here in the United States will also feel the impacts of the global food shortages. However, to be totally fair, there are many undeveloped countries all around the world that'll feel the impacts of the global food shortages way more severely than what we will right here in the United States. But at the end of the day, we still need to pay attention to this so that we can understand what is actually coming and how we can best prepare for the global food shortages that are basically starting right now. So with that being said, let's jump into it and discuss a lot of these details. However, really quickly before we do, I just want to point this out. I am not creating this video to instill fear or worry in anybody, but rather I do want to point this out for you because it is something that will impact us right here in the United States to some degree, and I want to make sure that you're prepared to know what is actually going to happen because this is one of those things that's going to come by, and it's going to take a long time to reverse this trend, okay? Once we get into a shortage, it's going to take a very long time to bring that back and get the necessary supply that we need for everybody out there. So we got to be prepared for this. There's many different moving parts around all this, so let's kind of talk our way through this one point at a time here. Since we started out by talking a little bit about Russia and Ukraine, let's quickly talk about them because they actually do play a very big role in this, but at the same time, it's not the full story. Now here's the thing. We've talked about this in many different videos over the last few weeks here. These two countries account for about 12 to 14% of the global grain supply, as in wheat, barley, corn, and soybeans. Therefore, between these two countries and everything that's going on right now, number one, they're not really able to produce the necessary amount of grains that they should be in a regular growing season, and at the same time, there are millions of tons of grain currently locked up in these two countries that is not necessarily being exported globally to the world, which we all need right here, right now. At the same time, over the last week or so, there's been a number of different countries coming out banning the exports of their grains, mostly wheat. Again, like I've said in other videos, if you ever look at the nutrition or the ingredients label of any product basically in your pantry, anything like this, you're going to see wheat or some type of grain on the ingredients list. Therefore, you can see how incredibly important these grains are right now. So when it comes to these two countries, they're very important. Now, one more thing about Russia. They are also a huge exporter of fertilizers. Well, at the same time, we also understand that fertilizer prices have been going through the roof over the last couple months here. Here's the problem. A lot of farmers all around the world and right here in the United States, we need those fertilizers to put on the fields and to make sure that they're getting the most crop out of the one growing season that they get throughout the year, right? So there's a few things that are going on right now. It's kind of like a multi-fold effect. Basically, the fertilizers that are in Russia, number one, if they're being exported in the first place, and if they can even come to the United States, again, there's a lot of question about that as well, they're also paying these exorbitant prices to actually get the fertilizer, right? So you can kind of see multi-fold effect here going on. Well, that just means that all these farmers need to go in and lay these fertilizers down and then hope that they can actually produce enough crop to actually cover all of their expenses and overhead going into it. Well, then that actually brings up the next effect on all this. Some farmers, again, what I've been reading around the United States and globally, are kind of throwing in the towel right now saying, I can't make money in this. Diesel prices are at all-time high records here in the United States. All of their farm equipment, again, runs on diesel fuel. At the same time, all of this grain that they do actually produce in one growing season that we get throughout the year is transported across the country or to wherever they go to actually mill it down and things like that, again, by diesel-fueled trucks, right? So we can see here, there's multiple effects that are going on right now. Diesel prices and fuel prices through the roof, supply issues with maybe parts or things like that they need for their farm equipment, again, through the roof if they can even get it in the first place. Fertilizer prices through the roof. There's a lot of different things that are going on here, many different effects. Not only that, around the entire world right now, many other major producers of grains, again, all around the world, as in like China, in India, they're seeing massive heat waves. Like in India, just over the last couple days here, the last week or so, India has been experiencing this massive heat wave rolling through that country. Well, what's a massive heat wave like that going to do to crops? Again, is it going to be good or is it going to be bad? Well, generally, it's not going to be such a good thing for the growing of crops and getting like a massive harvest out of the one growing season, once again, that we get, right? So you can kind of see all the effects coming together here. Now, there's many other parts of this actual equation going on right now. So as we continue to watch all of this going forward, there's many different things that are actually happening. Now, as we are actually approaching the time of year that we are here in the United States right now, we're basically just getting into the growing season here in the United States. Obviously, it's been in full swing here in the southern states for quite a while now, but in the northern states, it's just kind of coming into full swing right now as farmers are finally starting able to get back out in the fields, maybe plow a little bit, and again, lay down the seeds to hopefully, get the crop that they're actually waiting for here. So again, this is going to play a major role in the United States, as in, what can we produce here? This is going to be very important as well, because here's the thing. In the United States, we're going to get however much grain that we produce here. We need that here in the United States. But here's the problem. With all of these other countries all around the world that are not able to produce the necessary grains that they need, and all of these other countries that are putting in these export bans right now on their grain, guess where it's going to come from? Yeah, us, the United States, because we don't necessarily have any export bans in place as of right now anyway. So what are we going to do? We're going to start exporting it to all these other countries that need it. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that. I'm just simply saying that if we all of a sudden export all of our grain, where do we get it, right? Then what happens? All these other countries have these export bans in place. We can't import it, and we're exporting what we need. You kind of see what I'm saying here? Yeah, so that's going to kind of play into this whole thing. Now, one more thing. Between all of this, well, let me take that back. Not one more thing. There's like 20 more things. But we'll only go through a small handful more here in this video because I don't want to drag this on forever. However, as we continue to look at all this grain right now, so there's kind of, another like a twofold effect on this. We need the grains to produce many of the different products that we need on our store shelves, right? Basically anything like cereals, breads, pastas, any type of like carbohydrate type foods, it all has grain in it, right? It's all very important. At the same time, some of this grain is also fed to livestock, right? Well, that's also something that we need to watch too, because if we're only have a finite amount of grain that we actually produce in one growing season, and we need to eat it as humans, and then we need to refine it down and make foods out of it, at the same time we're feeding it to livestock, we're kind of running out fast here, right? So here's what we want to know going forward. First off, like I said, any types of like carbohydrate type foods, like I said, cereals, crackers, chips, what else? Pastas. I mean, seriously, basically anything in the grocery section of the grocery store, anything that's not refrigerated is pretty much going to have some kind of grain in it, right? So we got to watch that stuff closely because that is where the shortages are going to come in, right? So we got to watch that too. So anything that you may want to consider going forward, and again, this is probably not going to impact us here in the United States as nearly as much as it's going to impact other countries around the world, but it will still impact our supply right here in the United States. You may want to consider this, and again, there's a lot more to talk about in this video, which I'll get to here in just a second, but you may want to consider this because at the very least, whether we have actually supply issues here in the United States or not, it's going to impact the price at a minimum, okay? The price will be impacted at an absolute minimum, but probably some supply issues at the same time. If you have an extra, few dollars here and there over the coming weeks and months, if you want to start picking up a few extra items here and there, again, I would highly advise non-perishable items. So as in, don't go out and buy stuff that's going to expire in 3 days or a week or go bad, but more like pasta products, things like this that can sit on your shelf or on your pantry for 6 months and it's not that big of a deal, right? Things that have a long shelf life. You may want to pick up a little bit of extra stuff. Maybe some extra noodles, maybe some extra pasta, maybe an extra box or two of cereal, things like this. Because here's the thing. Whether we actually do see shortages or not, that's one part of the equation. We're going to see price increases because there's a finite amount of supply, as in grains that we need to actually make all these products. Therefore, if there's finite supply and equal or more demand, we all know, because we've talked about it before, this is going to drive prices higher. So just keep that in mind. Again, I can't tell you what to do here. I don't know your situation. I know money is tight for a lot of people, but I'm just simply saying, if you can maybe grab a few extra items here and there and just start kind of grabbing a few things, don't hoard stuff. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just simply saying maybe a couple extra boxes of pasta, a couple extra boxes of cereal, a couple extra here and there items that you can kind of stick away in the event that this does actually come to fruition here over the coming weeks and months. Something we got to continue to watch closely. And again, it's not going to hit like it's going to hit tomorrow. No, it's not going to come tomorrow. It's not going to be in the next week. It's going to be a very long, drawn-out process, especially as we're just entering into the growing season right here in the United States, right? The harvesting season is still out like 3 months from now, right? So we're going to be fine for a little while, but this all will come home to roost at some point, probably later this year. So again, just a couple things that we want to pay attention to going forward. Next, we also need to watch a few other items going forward as well, like meats as in beef, pork, poultry, stuff like this. Why? First off, prices are going to be incredibly high on these items because, for one reason, like I just said, we're feeding grains to these animals. Again, if there's a finite amount of grain and we're feeding it to these animals, that means these animals, they're pretty expensive, right? They have a pretty high value because we're feeding them something that we need. Therefore, their meat is going to be very valuable as well. Not only that, remember, about a week ago, I talked about this bird flu that is rolling through the United States right now, and it just wiped out 37 million birds here in the United States, as in chickens and turkeys. Well, I'm sorry, but that's going to mean less eggs and less meat on our store shelves. Therefore, less supply, equal or more demand equals higher prices, okay? So this is all kind of coming home. We can see how this is all working full circle here. So just a few things that we need to take into account here. And again, to restock and replenish the turkey and the turkey and chicken kind of flocks around the country is going to take a very long time. You can't just snap your fingers one day and all of a sudden have a whole flock of chickens. No, it doesn't work that way. Close, but it doesn't quite work that way. It takes a long time to kind of rebuild the egg layers and, of course, all the chicken and the turkey supply that we need in this country. Again, 37 million birds were wiped out just like a week ago. So again, super sad stuff going on right now. But this is the reality that we are living in right now. And again, as I've said before, it is my dedication to be here for you, to kind of give you foresight into what is coming, what is currently happening, based on all the research that I'm doing and what I'm finding out there. This is something that is happening. And like I said, it is going to be a very slow process to start. But once the shortages are in place, it's going to take a very long time to get them back up in order. Let me give you a quick example, just for fun. Remember back in 2020, toilet paper, right? Everybody was buying toilet paper for some unknown reason, right? Everybody was stocking up. Here's the thing. How long did it take for toilet paper to get back stocked onto the store shelves? A long time, right? What was it? Probably late 2020. By the time we actually saw store shelves actually fully stocked with toilet paper once again, because anytime they got a little bit back in, people were grabbing it right away, right? Because people didn't stock up like some other people did. And anytime one little store got, a box of 5 rolls, it was sold immediately. That's my point. Same thing's going to happen with food supply. Once it is actually down and once supplies are kind of depleted for a short term, it's going to take a very long time to get that back, because as soon as one shipment comes in and one little box, one pallet, whatever hits the store shelves, guess what happens? It gets sold immediately. That's what I'm saying. So you got to watch this stuff. It's going to take a long time to kind of work this whole thing out. But once those shortages may be in place, we might be in for a little bit of kind of a difficult situation. Again, I'm not saying that we're talking about famine here in the United States. Other countries, unfortunately, that may be the case. But here in the United States, no, I don't anticipate that. I'm simply saying shortages. And a lot of times, these products that I'm talking about here that we need, as in pastas, breads, any grain type product, a lot of times these are kind of cheaper products that are on the store shelves, right? You walk down the aisle, what are the ones that kind of catch your attentions? Well, it's the pastas. I mean, you can get a box of pasta for like $1.29. Well, You could, at one point in my life, you could get like a box of spaghetti noodles for like 99 cents not that long ago. I'm sure it's about $7 now. I mean, honestly, I don't even know. I don't go to the store. Haven't been in a very long time. But my point is, that product used to be relatively cheap. Still probably is compared to many other items. That's kind of what I'm trying to say here. Anyway, I just want to give you this information because these global food shortages are a thing. They're already happening. It's going to be happening here, and we've got to pay attention to this going forward. Anyway, I hope this gives you a little bit more foresight into what is coming and how to best prepare for this. If you can, maybe grab a few extra items here and there. Don't hoard stuff. Don't empty out the shelves. Leave stuff for other people too. But just over the course of the coming months here, you may want to consider grabbing an extra box here and there just because, and you have it on your shelf. Make sure if you're not going to use it, maybe donate it to a friend, family, or a family member, or maybe even a food bank. If you don't intend to use it, try to donate it rather than waste it. But I think all of us are in a position now where I don't think a whole lot of food is going to waste these days. But again, that's just kind of my public service announcement. Kind of have to throw it out there just because, if we can help somebody else out, go for it. Anyway, hope this one helps you out. Make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. Share the video with your friends, family, social media, and go back and check out some of the other thousands of videos right here on the channel. Thanks again. I truly want to help you out in any way that I possibly can, so please enjoy your day, and I'll catch you again later in the next